The afternoon sun came through the tall windows of Sterling University's main lecture hall. Students walked in slowly, carrying their heavy backpacks and coffee cups. Some were talking and laughing. Others looked tired from studying late the night before. They took their seats in the old wooden chairs that had been there for many years. Professor Marcus Chen stood at the front of the room. He was a thin man in his early 40s with glasses that sometimes slid down his nose. He wore a brown jacket with patches on the elbows, like professors in old movies. Marcus had taught mathematics at Sterling University for 15 years. Students respected him because he was smart, but they also liked him because he was kind and patient. Today, Marcus had something special planned. Before any student arrived, he had written something on the large whiteboard that covered the entire front wall. It was not the usual lesson. It was a problem. But not just any problem. This was a problem that had made famous mathematicians scratch their heads for many years. The equations filled half the board. There were symbols and numbers that looked like a foreign language, Greek letters mixed with calculus notation, integrals stacked on top of derivatives, variables that seemed to dance across the white surface in black marker ink. When the last student sat down, Marcus turned to face the class. He pushed his glasses up and smiled a little. The room became quiet. Everyone could tell something different was happening today. "Good afternoon, everyone," Marcus said. His voice was calm and clear. "Before we start our regular lesson, I want to show you something interesting. This problem on the board is very special. Mathematicians have been trying to solve it for more than 30 years. Students looked at each other. Some leaned forward in their seats to see the board better. A few students in the back row stood up to take photos with their phones. "This is not homework," Marcus continued. "And it is not required. But if anyone can solve it, I will give you extra credit. A lot of extra credit. Enough to improve your final grade significantly." A student named Jennifer raised her hand. She was one of the best students in the class. "Professor Chen, if nobody has solved it in 30 years, how are we supposed to solve it?" Marcus smiled again. "That is a fair question. Maybe you cannot. Maybe nobody in this room can, but I believe in showing you real mathematics, not just textbook problems that always have neat answers. This is what mathematics really looks like. Sometimes we face problems that seem impossible, but we try anyway. That is what mathematicians do." Another student named David called out without raising his hand. "What kind of problem is it? What is it about?" "It involves advanced calculus and number theory," Marcus explained. "It is about finding a specific solution to a differential equation that has applications in physics and engineering. The problem asks us to prove that a certain function exists and to find its exact form. Many very smart people have tried. Some came close, but nobody has found the complete answer." The students stared at the board. Most of them felt overwhelmed just looking at it. The symbols seemed to blur together. How could anyone even begin to solve something like that? "Take pictures if you want," Marcus said. "Think about it. Work on it with friends. Use books and computers. I'm not expecting an answer tomorrow or next week. Just keep it in your mind. Sometimes solutions come when we are not actively trying to solve something. Sometimes they come when we are taking a shower or walking or just before we fall asleep." For the rest of the class, Marcus taught the regular lesson about integration techniques. Students took notes and asked questions, but their eyes kept going back to that problem on the board. It sat there like a challenge, like a mountain that nobody had climbed. When class ended at 4:30, students packed their bags and left. Some stopped to take one more photo of the board. Others talked about the problem as they walked out. "No way anyone solves that," one student said to his friend. "Yeah, if real mathematicians cannot do it, how can we?" his friend replied. Marcus stayed in the room after everyone left. He looked at the problem on the board. He had tried to solve it himself many times over the years. He had filled notebooks with attempts, but he always got stuck at the same place. There was something missing, some insight that he could not find. He gathered his papers and put them in his leather bag. Then he walked out, leaving the problem on the board. He did not erase it. He wanted it to stay there. Maybe tomorrow someone would have an idea. The lecture hall became empty and quiet. The sun moved lower in the sky. Shadows grew longer across the rows of desks. Outside, students walked across campus to the library or to their dorm rooms or to get dinner. At 6 o'clock, the building became even quieter. Most classes were finished for the day. Professors went home. Students left to study elsewhere. The hallways were empty except for the sound of footsteps here and there. At 7 o'clock, a door opened at the end of the hallway. A man pushed a yellow cleaning cart into the corridor. The cart held bottles of cleaning spray, paper towels, trash bags, and a mop and bucket. The wheels squeaked a little as the cart rolled over the old floor tiles. The man's name was Miguel Santos. He was 55 years old, but he looked older. His hair was mostly gray. His hands were rough and red from years of cleaning with strong chemicals. He wore a dark blue uniform with his name patch sewn on the chest. His face had deep lines around his eyes and mouth. These were the lines of someone who had lived through difficult times. Miguel had worked as a janitor at Sterling University for 12 years. Every evening from 7 until midnight, he cleaned the mathematics and science buildings. He emptied trash cans. He mopped floors. He wiped down desks and cleaned whiteboards. He worked alone, which he preferred. It gave him time to think, time to remember, time to dream about a life that might have been different. He pushed his cart to the lecture hall where Marcus Chen had taught that afternoon. Miguel had cleaned this room hundreds of times. He knew every corner, every scratch on the floor, every stain on the ceiling tiles. He opened the door and turned on the lights. The fluorescent bulbs flickered for a moment before glowing bright. Miguel pushed his cart inside and closed the door behind him. He always started by emptying the trash. Then he would sweep, then mop, then clean the board. He had a routine that never changed. But tonight something was different. Tonight, as Miguel walked down the aisle between the desks, his eyes caught the whiteboard. Usually, professors erased their boards at the end of class. But tonight, the board was still covered with equations. Complex equations. Beautiful equations. Miguel stopped walking. He stood in the middle of the room, holding an empty trash bag in his hand. He stared at the board. His eyes moved slowly across the symbols and numbers. His lips moved slightly, like he was reading something written in his native language. And perhaps in a way he was. Miguel dropped the trash bag. He walked slowly toward the front of the room. His heart beat faster in his chest. He had not felt this feeling in many years. It was the feeling of seeing a problem that called to him. A problem that spoke to a part of himself he had buried deep inside. He stood in front of the whiteboard. His worn fingers reached out and almost touched the surface. Then he pulled his hand back. He should not touch it. He was just a janitor. This was not his world anymore. That life was gone. That person he used to be was gone, but the problem was still there. And Miguel Santos could not look away. Miguel stood in front of the whiteboard for a long time. His eyes moved over the equations again and again. His mind began to work in ways it had not worked for many years. He could see the structure of the problem. He could see where others might have gotten stuck. And slowly, like morning light coming through a window, he began to see something else. He began to see a path to the solution. His hand reached out. This time he did not pull it back. His fingers touched the piece of chalk that sat on the small ledge below the board. The chalk felt strange in his hand. It had been so many years since he had held chalk for anything except erasing a board clean. Miguel looked at the door. Nobody was there. Nobody was coming. The building was quiet except for the hum of the lights above. He was alone with this problem. Just him and the mathematics that had once been his whole world. He began to write. His hand moved slowly at first, uncertain, then faster. The chalk made soft clicking sounds as it touched the board. He wrote beneath Professor Chen's original problem. He started with a transformation that simplified the equation. Then he applied a technique that combined two different areas of mathematics. His writing was neat and clear. Each step followed logically from the one before. Minutes passed. Miguel forgot about his cleaning cart. He forgot about the time. He forgot about everything except the problem in front of him. His mind was completely focused. This was the feeling he remembered from long ago. The feeling of being lost inside mathematics. The feeling of chasing a solution through the landscape of numbers and symbols. After 20 minutes, Miguel stepped back. He looked at what he had written. The solution was complete. It was elegant. It used an approach that was creative but simple. He had solved it. For a moment, Miguel felt pure joy. The kind of joy he had not felt in many, many years. Then reality came back. He looked at his uniform. He looked at his cleaning cart. He remembered who he was now. He was Miguel Santos, the janitor. He was not a mathematician. Not anymore. Fear replaced joy. What had he done? What would happen if someone saw this? People would ask questions. Questions he did not want to answer. Questions about who he was and where he came from, and why a janitor could solve a problem that real mathematicians could not solve. Miguel grabbed an eraser. He wiped away his solution quickly. The board became white again, covered only with chalk dust. Only Professor Chen's original problem remained. Miguel breathed hard. His hand shook a little, but then he stopped. He stood there holding the eraser. Something inside him felt wrong about erasing that solution. It was a good solution. It was correct. It deserved to exist in the world, even if nobody knew who had written it. Miguel looked at the clock on the wall. It was 7:45. He still had time before anyone would come. He made a decision. He picked up the chalk again. Working quickly, he rewrote the entire solution. Every step, every equation. When he finished, he put the chalk down and walked away fast. He grabbed his cleaning cart and pushed it out of the room. He did not look back. For the rest of the night, Miguel cleaned other rooms in the building. But his mind stayed in that lecture hall. His mind stayed with those equations on the board. He wondered if he had made a mistake. He wondered what would happen in the morning. Miguel finished his work at midnight. He went home to the small apartment he shared with his wife Maria and their younger daughter who was still in college. The apartment was quiet. Everyone was asleep. Miguel took a shower and got into bed. But he could not sleep. He kept seeing the whiteboard in his mind. He kept seeing the solution he had written. The next morning, Professor Marcus Chen arrived at the university early. He always came early on Wednesdays because his first class started at 8. He carried his leather bag and a cup of coffee from the campus cafe. The hallways were still quiet. Only a few students walked around. Marcus opened the door to his lecture hall. He walked down the aisle toward the front, thinking about the lesson he would teach. Then he looked up at the whiteboard and stopped walking. He almost dropped his coffee. The problem was still there. But now, beneath it, there was something else. There was a solution, a complete solution, written in neat, clear handwriting. Marcus walked quickly to the board. His hand shook as he set down his coffee and bag. He pulled out his phone and took several photos. Then he began to read the solution carefully. His eyes grew wider with each line. This was not just correct. This was brilliant. The approach was something Marcus had never considered. It combined techniques in a way that was both creative and simple. Whoever wrote this understood mathematics at a very deep level. Marcus read through the solution 3 times. Each time he became more amazed. Every step was logical. Every assumption was valid. This was the real answer. After 30 years, someone had solved it. But students started arriving for class. They saw Professor Chen standing at the board with a strange expression on his face. They sat down quietly, confused about what was happening. When everyone was seated, Marcus turned to face them. "Someone solved it," he said. His voice was excited. Someone solved the problem. The students looked at the board. Then they looked at each other. Whispers filled the room. "Who did it?" Jennifer asked. "I do not know," Marcus said. "That is what I want to find out. Who wrote this solution?" The room became silent. Students looked around at each other. Nobody raised their hand. Nobody spoke. "Please," Marcus said. "If you solved this, you deserve credit. This is remarkable work. You do not need to be shy." More silence. One by one, students shook their heads. A young man named Thomas spoke up. "Professor Chen, I took a photo of the board yesterday. This solution was not here when class ended. The board only had your problem on it." Marcus nodded slowly. "So someone wrote this after class ended. Someone came into this room last night." Another student named Sarah laughed. "Maybe the janitor did it." Several other students laughed too. It was clearly meant as a joke. The idea that a janitor could solve an advanced mathematics problem seemed ridiculous to them, but Marcus did not laugh. His face became very serious. He looked at the solution again. Then he looked at the students. "I need to check something," he said. "Class is canceled today. I will send you all an email later." The students were surprised. Professor Chen never canceled class. They gathered their bags and left, talking and wondering what was going on. Most of them thought Professor Chen was upset that someone had touched his board. They did not understand the real reason he was acting so strange. After everyone left, Marcus walked quickly to the main office. He found the building supervisor, a tired-looking man named Frank who had worked there for 20 years. "Frank, I need to see the security camera footage from last night," Marcus said. Frank looked up from his computer. "What for? Did something happen?" "I just need to see who was in Lecture Hall 3 yesterday evening." "It is very important." Frank sighed and stood up. "Follow me." They went to a small room filled with monitors and recording equipment. Frank sat down and typed on a keyboard. Video footage appeared on the screen. He fast-forwarded through the recording until it showed the lecture hall from the previous evening. Marcus watched the screen carefully. At 7:15, a man with a cleaning cart entered the room. The man was wearing a dark blue janitor uniform. The camera angle was not perfect, but Marcus could see what happened. The janitor stopped. He stared at the board. Then he walked to the front of the room. He picked up chalk. He started writing. The footage continued. The janitor wrote for about 20 minutes. Then he erased everything. But then, after a moment, he wrote it all again. When he finished, he left quickly with his cleaning cart. Marcus stared at the screen. The student had been joking, but the joke was true. The janitor really had solved the problem. "Can you zoom in on his uniform?" Marcus asked. "I need to see his name." Frank zoomed in as much as possible. The image was grainy, but they could read the name patch. It said, "Miguel Santos. Do you know him?" Marcus asked. "Sure," Frank said. "Miguel has worked here for years. Good guy, very quiet. Does his job well. Why? Did he do something wrong?" Marcus shook his head slowly. "No, he did something extraordinary. I need to find him." Marcus spent the rest of the morning trying to find Miguel Santos. He asked Frank where Miguel might be. Frank explained that Miguel worked the evening shift, from 7 at night until midnight. He would not be on campus until later. But Frank gave Marcus the location where janitors took their lunch breaks. At noon, Marcus walked across campus to the basement of the science building. This was where maintenance workers had their break room. It was not a place where professors usually went. Marcus felt out of place as he walked down the old concrete stairs into the basement. The hallway was dim and smelled like cleaning chemicals. Marcus could hear the sound of machines running somewhere. He found the break room and knocked on the door. Nobody answered, so he opened it slowly. Inside, the room was small and plain. There were a few tables with plastic chairs. Old lockers lined one wall. A microwave sat on a counter next to a coffee maker. And at one of the tables, eating a sandwich, was a gray-haired man in a blue uniform. His name patch said Miguel Santos. Miguel looked up when the door opened. When he saw a professor standing there, his eyes showed fear for just a moment. Then he tried to look calm.
"Can I help you?"
he asked quietly. Marcus walked into the room. "Mr. Santos? My name is Marcus Chen. I am a mathematics professor. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" Miguel's hand holding the sandwich began to shake slightly. He put the sandwich down on the paper wrapper. "I am on my lunch break," he said. "Is something wrong? Did I not clean your classroom properly?" No, Marcus said quickly. He pulled out a chair and sat down across from Miguel. "Your cleaning is fine. Perfect, actually. I want to talk to you about something else. About the problem on my whiteboard. In Lecture Hall 3, Miguel's face went pale. He looked down at his sandwich. He did not say anything. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed Miguel the photo of the solution. "This is brilliant work. The best solution I have seen to this problem. You wrote this, did you not?" Miguel was quiet for a long moment. His mind raced. He could deny it. He could say he was just playing around. He could make up an excuse. But looking at Professor Chen's kind face, Miguel felt tired of hiding. Tired of pretending to be someone he was not. "Yes," Miguel finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I wrote it. I am sorry. I should not have touched your board. I will not do it again. Sorry?" Marcus leaned forward. "Mr. Santos, you do not understand. This is a problem that has stumped professional mathematicians for decades. And you solved it in 20 minutes. How is that possible? Who are you?" Miguel looked up at Marcus. His eyes were filled with old sadness. "Who am I?" he repeated. "I am nobody. I am just a janitor." "No," Marcus said firmly. "People who are just janitors do not solve problems like this. Please tell me the truth. I am not here to cause trouble for you. I am here because I need to understand." Miguel took a deep breath. He looked around the empty break room. Then he began to talk. The words came slowly at first, then faster, like water breaking through a dam. 25 years ago, I was not a janitor, Miguel said. I was a doctoral student in mathematics at the University of São Paulo in Brazil. That is where I am from, São Paulo. I was studying advanced calculus and number theory. I was going to be a professor. That was my dream since I was a boy. Marcus listened carefully, not interrupting. I was in my final year. Miguel continued. I was writing my dissertation. My advisor said I was doing excellent work. He said I had a bright future. Then my wife, Maria, she got sick. Very sick, cancer, aggressive cancer. The doctor said she might not survive. Miguel's voice cracked a little. He paused and took a sip from a bottle of water on the table. We had 2 little daughters. They were 7 and 9 years old. We had no family nearby to help us. Maria's parents had passed away. My parents lived far in the countryside and were too old to travel. It was just me. I had to take care of Maria. I had to take care of our girls. I had to work to pay for the medical treatments. I left the university. I did not finish my dissertation. I took any job I could find. I worked in restaurants. I worked in stores. I worked construction. Whatever paid money. For 3 years I worked and took care of my family. The cancer treatment was very expensive. We spent all our savings. We borrowed money from everyone we knew. We sold our car. We sold our furniture. We almost lost our apartment. Marcus felt a heavy weight in his chest as he listened. But Maria survived, Miguel said, and a small smile came to his face. The treatment worked. She got better. She's still alive today, healthy. But we were destroyed financially. We had nothing left. And in Brazil, the economy was bad. I could not find good work. People did not want to hire a man who had been out of his field for so many years. We decided to come to the United States. Maria's cousin lived here and said she could help us find work. So we came. We had hope for a new start. But it was harder than we thought. My English was not good. My Portuguese degrees meant nothing here. Universities did not recognize my credentials. I had a 10-year gap in my academic record. I was 43 years old with no recent experience. I applied for teaching positions at community colleges. I applied to be a tutor. I applied anywhere that involved mathematics. But nobody would hire me. They said I needed American credentials, or I needed recent work experience, or my English was not good enough. There was always a reason. Miguel's hands formed fists on the table, not in anger but in frustration at the memory. I had to feed my family. I had to pay rent. So I took the only job I could get. Janitor. I thought it would be temporary. I thought I would improve my English and find something better. But years passed. My daughters needed school supplies. They needed clothes. They needed food. The job paid enough to survive. So I stayed. 12 years I have been cleaning these buildings. Did you ever tell anyone here about your background? Marcus asked. Miguel shook his head. No, who would believe me? A janitor who says he used to study mathematics. People would think I was crazy or lying. And I did not want people to pity me. I did not want to be the sad story that people whisper about. I just wanted to do my job and go home. What about your daughters? Do they know? Miguel looked down. No, I never told them. They were so young when we left Brazil. They do not really remember my university days. They just know me as their father who works hard to give them a better life. I wanted them to focus on their own education. I did not want them to carry the weight of my lost dreams. I wanted them to be free to become whoever they wanted to be. Marcus sat back in his chair. He felt overwhelmed by Miguel's story. Here was a man who had sacrificed everything for his family. A man who had given up his dreams so his wife could live and his children could have a future. And now he cleaned the floors in a mathematics building surrounded every day by the life he used to have. Mr. Santos, Marcus said quietly, Miguel, you are one of the most remarkable people I have ever met. And I want to help you. I want to help you get back to mathematics. This is where you belong. Miguel looked up with tears in his eyes, but he shook his head. That life is gone, Professor Chen. I am 55 years old. I have no degree, no papers, no credentials. I am too old to start over. You are not too old, Marcus said with conviction, and you just proved you still have the mind of a brilliant mathematician. That solution on my board was not luck. That was deep understanding. That was expertise. We need to find a way to get you back into this world. Miguel wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Even if I wanted to, how? Universities have rules, processes. I cannot just walk into a classroom and start teaching. I do not know yet, Marcus admitted. But I am going to figure it out. Will you let me try? Will you let me help you? Miguel looked at Marcus for a long time. Part of him wanted to say no. Part of him wanted to keep hiding. It was safer that way. Less risky. But another part of him, the part that had solved that problem on the whiteboard, that part wanted to say yes so badly it hurt. Why would you do this for me? Miguel asked. You do not know me, Marcus smiled. Because mathematics is not just about solving problems. It is about recognizing talent and helping it grow. And because what happened to you was unfair. You deserved better. Maybe it is not too late to make it right. Miguel felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt hope. Small and fragile, but real. He nodded slowly. Okay, he said. You can try. Marcus Chen did not waste time. The next day he went to see Dr. Patricia Howard, the head of the mathematics department. Patricia was a woman in her late 50s with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been at Sterling University for 30 years and knew every rule and policy by heart. Marcus knocked on her office door. Patricia looked up from the papers on her desk. Marcus, come in. What can I do for you? Marcus sat down across from her. Patricia, I need to talk to you about something unusual. Something important. He told her everything. He told her about the problem on the board. About Miguel solving it. About Miguel's past as a doctoral student in Brazil. About his wife's cancer and his years of sacrifice. Patricia listened without interrupting, her expression hard to read. When Marcus finished, Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, This is quite a story. But Marcus, even if everything you say is true, there are problems. Big problems. What problems? Marcus asked, though he already knew some of the answers. First, he does not have a completed doctorate. Our policies require faculty members to have terminal degrees. Second, he has been out of academic mathematics for 25 years. How do we know he is still current with the field? Third, he is employed by the university as a janitor. The union contract makes it very difficult to move someone from one job category to another. And fourth, even if we wanted to hire him, we do not have an open position. Our budget is tight. The dean will not approve new hires without exceptional justification. Marcus had expected this. I understand those concerns. But Patricia, this man solved a problem that has been open for 30 years. In 20 minutes, that has to count for something. One solved problem does not prove he can teach classes or conduct research, Patricia said. I am not saying I do not believe you, but the administration will want more evidence, and the faculty will have questions too. Some of them will be skeptical. Marcus leaned forward. So what do we do? Just let him keep cleaning floors? Waste his talent? Patricia sighed. She took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. I want to help, Marcus, but I need to be realistic about what is possible. Let me think about this. Give me a few days to figure out what options we have. Marcus left her office feeling frustrated. He understood the challenges, but they seemed like excuses. He decided to try a different approach. If the university needed proof of Miguel's abilities, he would get that proof. That evening, Marcus went to find Miguel during his shift. He brought several advanced mathematics problems with him. Problems from current research journals. Problems that even Marcus found difficult. Miguel was mopping the floor in one of the science labs when Marcus found him. Miguel looked surprised to see the professor again. Miguel, I need your help, Marcus said. The department head needs more evidence that you can do high-level mathematics. Will you solve some more problems for me? Miguel looked nervous. I do not know if I can. That problem on your board, it was something I studied in my doctoral work. But I have not kept up with new mathematics. I have not read research papers in many years. Just try, Marcus said. Please, Miguel agreed. Marcus gave him the problems and some paper. Miguel took them home that night. The next day he returned with solutions. All of them were correct. All of them showed deep understanding. Marcus was amazed. Over the next week, Marcus gave Miguel more and more challenging problems. Each time Miguel solved them. It became clear that Miguel had not lost his mathematical ability. If anything, years of thinking quietly while working had made his mind sharper in some ways. Marcus showed the solutions to Patricia. He showed them to other faculty members. Slowly, some people began to take the idea seriously, but others remained doubtful. Professor David Walsh, an older man who had been at the university for 40 years, spoke up during a department meeting. This is all very interesting, but solving problems on paper is not the same as teaching students. How do we know he can stand in front of a class and explain concepts clearly, especially in his second language? Other faculty members nodded. They had a point. Marcus thought about it and came up with an idea. What if Miguel gives a guest lecture? Just one class. Let us see how he does. Patricia considered this. That could work. It would give us a chance to evaluate his teaching ability. But Marcus, you need to prepare him. Make sure he knows what he is getting into. Marcus went to Miguel with the proposal. Miguel was terrified. I cannot do that, Professor Chen. I have never taught a class in English. I will embarrass myself. The students will laugh at me. They might, Marcus said honestly. Some of them might not take you seriously at first. But once you start talking about mathematics, they will see who you really are. I believe in you, Miguel. You can do this. Miguel went home that night and told Maria everything. For the first time in 12 years, he told his wife about his conversations with Professor Chen, about the problems he had been solving, about the possibility of returning to mathematics, Maria cried. Not sad tears, but tears of joy mixed with old pain. Miguel, why did you never tell me you wanted this? All these years I thought you were happy. I wanted you to be happy, Miguel said. I wanted our daughters to have good lives. That was more important than my dreams. But your dreams matter too, Maria said, holding his hands. You sacrificed so much for me, for us. If there is a chance to get back what you lost, you should take it. You should try. The next day, Miguel called his daughters. His older daughter, Sophia, was 24 and worked as a nurse. His younger daughter, Isabel, was 22 and still in college studying biology. Miguel told them everything. He told them about his past in Brazil, about his doctoral studies, about what he had given up. Both daughters were shocked. Sophia started crying on the phone. Papa, we never knew. You never said anything. I did not want to burden you, Miguel said. Burden us, Isabel said. Papa, we are so proud of you. You gave up everything for our family, and now you have a chance to go back. You have to do it. You have to try. Their encouragement gave Miguel strength. He agreed to give the guest lecture. Professor Chen scheduled it for 2 weeks later. That gave Miguel time to prepare. Miguel spent every free moment getting ready. He read recent mathematics papers to catch up on new developments. He practiced explaining concepts in English. He wrote and rewrote his lecture notes. Maria helped him practice. His daughters video called him and pretended to be students asking questions. The night before the lecture, Miguel could not sleep. He lay in bed thinking about what might happen. What if his English was not good enough? What if he forgot something important? What if the students really did laugh at him? The morning of the lecture arrived. Miguel put on his janitor uniform like always. He went to work at 7 in the evening. But at 8:30 he went to the bathroom and changed into clothes that Maria had bought for him. A pair of dress pants, a button-up shirt, a tie. He looked at himself in the mirror. He looked like a professor. But did he feel like one? At 9 o'clock, Miguel walked to Lecture Hall 3, the same room where he had solved that problem on the whiteboard weeks ago. His hands shook as he approached the door. He could hear students talking inside. He could hear laughter. Marcus was waiting outside the door. Are you ready? He asked. No, Miguel said honestly. I am terrified. That is normal, Marcus said. I was terrified before my first lecture too. But you know this material. You know it better than most people in the world. Just talk about mathematics. Share what you love about it. The rest will follow. Marcus opened the door and walked in. The students became quiet. There were about 40 students in the room. Some were Professor Chen's regular students. Others had heard about this special lecture and come to watch. Some had their phones out ready to record. Good evening, everyone, Marcus said. Thank you for coming. Tonight we have a very special guest lecturer. His name is Miguel Santos. Some of you might recognize him. He works in this building. But he is not here tonight as a janitor. He is here as a mathematician. Please give him your full attention and respect. Marcus stepped aside. Miguel walked to the front of the room. Some students whispered to each other. A few looked confused. One student in the back row said something to his friend and laughed quietly. Miguel stood at the whiteboard. He looked out at the faces staring at him. Young faces full of doubt and curiosity and judgment. For a moment he wanted to run. But then he thought about Maria. about Sophia and Isabel, about Professor Chen who believed in him, about his younger self who had dreamed of this moment. Miguel picked up a piece of chalk. His hand stopped shaking. He turned to the board and began to write. And then he began to teach. His voice grew stronger. His explanations became clearer. He did not just explain the formulas. He explained why they mattered. He explained the beauty hidden in the symbols. He told stories about famous mathematicians who had struggled with similar problems. He drew connections between abstract concepts and real-world applications. The students stopped whispering. They stopped looking at their phones. They started listening, really listening, because Miguel Santos was not just teaching mathematics. He was shh. After the lecture ended, students surrounded Miguel. They asked more questions. They asked about his story. They asked how he had learned so much. Several students took photos with him. A few recorded short videos on their phones. One student, Jennifer, the same girl who had asked the first question in Professor Chen's class weeks ago, spoke to Miguel directly. "Mr. Santos, that was amazing. I have taken a lot of math classes, but I never understood differential equations the way you explained them tonight. You made it make sense. Thank you." Miguel felt his eyes getting wet. He had not cried in front of people for many years, but he could not help it now. "Thank you," he said. "That means more to me than you know." The students began to leave. Some stopped to shake Miguel's hand. Others just smiled at him. When the room finally emptied, only Marcus and Miguel remained. "You were incredible," Marcus said. "That was one of the best lectures I have ever seen." Miguel sat down in one of the student chairs. He felt completely drained but also happy. "I forgot how much I loved this. Teaching, explaining, seeing understanding in someone's eyes. I forgot." "You did not forget," Marcus said. "You just had to remember." That night, something unexpected happened. One of the students who recorded the lecture posted it online. The video was titled, "Janitor Gives Mind-Blowing Math Lecture at Sterling University." The student wrote a description explaining Miguel's story, how he had been a doctoral student, how he had given up everything for his family, how he had solved an impossible problem, how he had just given the best lecture any of them had ever heard. The video was only posted to share with friends, but people started sharing it. It spread from student to student. Then it spread beyond the university. Within 24 hours, thousands of people had watched it. Within 48 hours, over 1 million people had seen it. Comments poured in from all over the world. People were inspired. People were moved. Many people shared their own stories of dreams they had given up. Others talked about immigrant experiences and the difficulty of having foreign credentials recognized. Mathematics professors from other universities commented on the quality of Miguel's teaching. Some offered support. Local news stations picked up the story, then national news. Reporters came to Sterling University asking to interview Miguel. The university's public relations office was overwhelmed with calls and emails. Miguel was terrified by all the attention. He did not want to be famous. He just wanted to teach mathematics, but Marcus helped him understand that this attention could actually help his case. It put pressure on the university to do something, and the pressure worked. Dr. Patricia Howard called an emergency meeting with the university president, the dean, and senior faculty members. They could not ignore this situation anymore. The whole world was watching. "We need to find a solution," the president said. "This is a public relations opportunity, but more importantly, it is the right thing to do. This man clearly has exceptional talent. We cannot let him slip away." Patricia presented a plan. The university would create a special pathway for Miguel. He would be hired as a lecturer on a temporary contract. During this time, he would teach one class per semester while working to complete his doctoral studies. The university would provide support, including English tutoring if needed and academic advising to help him navigate the American system. After completing his doctorate, he could apply for a permanent faculty position. There were still obstacles. The union representing janitors was concerned about setting precedent. The faculty had questions about standards and qualifications. The budget office worried about costs, but the public support for Miguel was so strong that these concerns were gradually overcome. The mathematics department faculty voted on the proposal. Not everyone was in favor. Some professors worried about lowering standards. Others thought the whole situation was too irregular. But the majority voted yes. Miguel would get his chance. When Marcus told Miguel the news, Miguel could not believe it. They are really going to let me teach? Officially? Yes, Marcus said, grinning. You start next semester. You will teach Introduction to Calculus, and you will begin working on completing your doctorate. Miguel put his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. Marcus was not sure if he was laughing or crying. It turned out to be both. I need to tell Maria, Miguel said. I need to tell my daughters. He called home right away. Maria answered. When Miguel told her the news, she screamed so loud that Marcus could hear it through the phone. Sophia and Isabel were visiting that evening. Miguel could hear all three of them crying and celebrating in the background. But the story did not end there. The viral video caught the attention of a wealthy alumnus of Sterling University named Richard Thompson. Richard had made millions in technology and had always been grateful for the education he received at Sterling. He was moved by Miguel's story and wanted to help. Richard contacted the university and established a special fund. The fund would cover Miguel's salary during his transition period. It would pay for his doctoral expenses, and it would provide financial support for Maria and his daughters. The fund was large enough that Miguel's family would never have to worry about money again while he completed his studies. Other donations came in too. People from around the world sent money to help Miguel. Some sent $5, some sent thousands. The university set up a scholarship in Miguel's name to help other immigrant students who faced similar barriers. The first day of the next semester arrived. Miguel walked into his classroom as Professor Santos. Not as the janitor, not as someone asking for permission, but as a teacher. The classroom was full. More students had signed up for his section than any other calculus class. Some were not even math majors. They just wanted to learn from the man they had seen in the video. Miguel stood at the front of the room. He looked out at the students. Welcome to Introduction to Calculus, he said. My name is Miguel Santos. Many of you know my story. You know that I was a janitor in this building. You know that I stopped being a mathematician for 25 years. Some people might think that makes me unqualified to teach you, but I want to tell you something I learned during those 25 years. The students listened carefully. I learned that education is not just about credentials or titles, Miguel continued. It is about never stopping to learn. For 25 years while I cleaned floors, I kept learning in my mind. I thought about problems. I remembered concepts. I never let that part of myself die completely. And that is what I want to teach you. Not just calculus, but how to keep learning no matter what life throws at you, how to stay curious, how to never give up on the things that matter to you. He picked up chalk and turned to the board. Now let us begin. Today we will talk about limits. What is a limit? It is the value that a function approaches as the input approaches some value. But more than that, a limit is about possibilities, about getting closer and closer to something even if you never quite reach it. That is mathematics. And that is also life, Miguel began to teach. His students took notes. They asked questions. They learned, and Miguel felt completely at peace. 2 years passed. Miguel completed his doctoral work. His dissertation was on advanced applications of calculus to physics problems. It was published and well received in the academic community. He officially received his doctorate at a ceremony where Maria, Sophia, and Isabel sat in the front row, crying with pride. The university offered Miguel a tenure-track position as assistant professor of mathematics. He accepted. Over the next few years, he became one of the most popular professors on campus. His classes were always full. His student evaluations were excellent. He published several important papers. He mentored other students who came from difficult backgrounds. Miguel never forgot where he came from. Every year on the anniversary of the day he solved that problem on the whiteboard, he volunteered to clean the mathematics building. He wanted to remember. He wanted to stay humble. And he wanted other janitors, other custodians, other people in job society overlooked to know that they mattered, that their minds mattered, that it was never too late. One day, 5 years after everything began, Miguel was teaching in Lecture Hall 3, the same room where it had all started. He was explaining a complex problem when a student raised her hand. Professor Santos, she said, your story inspired me to keep studying even when things got hard. I almost dropped out of college last year. My family has no money. I was working 2 jobs. I thought I was not smart enough. But then I saw your video. I decided to keep trying, and now I am here, in your class. Thank you, Miguel smiled. No, he said gently. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. That is the real lesson. Not my story, but that we all have the power to keep going, to keep learning, to keep becoming who we are meant to be. Good evening, Miguel said to her in Spanish. He had heard her speaking it to a coworker once. Good evening, Professor, she replied, a little shy. What is your name? Miguel asked. Rosa, she said. Rosa, I want you to know something, Miguel said. I used to have your job. I cleaned these floors for 12 years. There is no shame in this work. But if you have dreams of doing something else, do not give